Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes ball. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Everyone, welcome to the latest Wolves Fancast episode. It's a Valentine's Day special. The only thing we're missing tonight is Graham Torrington for a bit of late night love. But yesterday we had a bit of early love from our Wolves team as we won 2-0 away at Tottenham. On today's episode, I've got with me Stu and Gully. I'll come to you first, Stu. Premier League away game that you've missed. Wolves have won. How gutted did you feel?
Well, the other one that I missed this season was Watford away, and we won that 2-0 as well. So maybe that's the story.
Stay
if
away,
that happens,
Stu.
yeah. Well, if that happens against Arsenal as well, even better. With their silly little rival that they're trying to cook up over a few comments.
You're missing out on that one.
Yeah, it was 3 weeks' notice. The rearranged nonsense with it also. It was. I won't go into the original one because Kim's friend had it. So, oh well. It was odd, very odd. I don't like it at all. I was like pacing around like a trapped animal, thinking of things to do to occupy my time and not just drink on my own in the house. But yeah, it was. I don't like it, but it needs must sometimes.
What did you think of? I don't say performance, Gully, but just the current status of our club. Just go with it. The current status of this club. It's people say, look how we were, look how far we've come in 5 or 10 years, and now we're on the cusp of another European adventure.
I mean, for all the reasons we'll probably go on about the game, about the performance, everything. I just think this is the best Wolves team we've seen. Beyond anything Nuno probably showed us as well. I'd say. I just think there are certain elements to it that I appreciate a lot more than under Nuno's tenure. And that's not to discredit what he produced at the club, being a phenomenal success over the last 3 or 4 years. But going away to Spurs and just looking in total control for the majority of the game. Yeah, this is the standard. It was just exceptional.
Right, we'll do what we do normally. Start with the starting lineup. A few people I don't think our admin team actually predicted Luke Cundle to start because it was a brave decision, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, he's been pushing for it, and we've seen him for 5-10 minutes here and there. But again, it was a shock. I didn't expect it whatsoever. I thought, well, if he's going to do that, then we'll see a situation like we did before. We didn't Dunker on the wing, which we talked about endlessly a few weeks ago. It was like that or Trincao. And looking at it, thinking, well, okay, we're going to Spurs. We've beat Spurs before with a 5-man midfield, so it makes sense. But, Brereton Diaz has nearly scored, but it's offside. Damn. Live updates there. But yeah, it was a shock. But again, we've all been kind of waiting for it to happen. He's been kind of bigged up by Bruno as the next big thing, and that the players have total trust in him. So from that point of view, it was almost like, well, okay, let's see what he can do then. And to drop him in on a game like this, away from home, the importance of it as well, coming after the Arsenal game, I was shocked.
No brainer, Gully, that Ryan Aït-Nouri came back in for Marcel.
No, I think. Well, I say it's a no-brainer. You say it's a no-brainer. I think when we play with the 3 in the middle, it's even more important that we get more out of our wing backs going forward. They provide that extra bit of width. They haven't got a player in front of them to necessarily link up with like they would normally. So yeah, 100% the right call to get Aït-Nouri because we need them to really push against the opposition wing backs as they were this weekend, and he's very good at pressing high. And when he gets the ball, you just expect a little bit more to happen because he's a more capable forward-going thinking player.
We'll talk about his performance a lot more in depth as the episode continues, but I think a lot of Wolves fans wouldn't have wanted Dendoncker starting after the game against Arsenal, Stu.
Yeah, I know you're aiming that one straight at me, and rightly so, because I proper slagged him off. And again, there were people on Twitter afterwards saying, well, me in particular said about how poor Raul's been, and Dendoncker, other than Brentford away, has been pretty atrocious at times. But again, in a system like this that works for him, he played really well. So hands up, you can only say what's in front of you, and he had a great game. I think having Kundal there as well, doing what he did, could have freed him up a little bit, and he wasn't as caught like, and he actually playing forward passes as well, which is not really something you associate with Dendoncker most of the time. There's a couple of great ones, and one that led to the goal.
There was a small clamouring on Twitter. I'm not sure if you saw it, Gully, of people asking if Raul should be dropped and Fabio starting. What was your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we've been saying it for weeks now. To be honest, that he owes us a bit of a performance. I wouldn't have been averse to it if I saw it. I'd have been not necessarily keen for it, but if that was the decision Bruno made, I'd have backed him on it and been like, you know what, Fabio's shown flashes again in the brief appearances that he's made. Maybe not quite at it against Norwich in the cup, but we all know he's got a knack for getting into good positions. He would struggle, I do think, in a two up top. So, I prefer it if Fabio has a couple of guys around him to play off. But Raul has needed to pick up his performances recently, so you couldn't necessarily argue with those calls. But I guess we'll get onto it. But he answered them to a certain extent.
We had a bit of depth, obviously, with Fabio on the bench, but it was great to see that Johnny Otto made his return to the matchday squad. If you take a look at that subs bench there, John Ruddy, Keanu Hover, Marcel, Johnny, Totti, Trinko, Fabio, Chiquinho, and the return of Hee-Chan Wang. This squad's starting to come together, isn't it, Stu?
It looks like an actual proper Premier League squad there, and not just a patched up two keepers on the bench youth team that he has for the vast majority of the season.
That picture of Johnny there on the right is a bit of an expression that we're all sharing whilst looking at that bench, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like a.
Is it real?
It's like a pack of polos. It's got a lot of good stuff in it, but there's a big hole in the middle, specifically midfielders. It's quite interesting to see, to be fair.
Do they still do citrus polos?
Citrus ones, I think. Well, I can't say I've bought a pack in recent times, but I wouldn't be surprised.
That was a high school sort of staple part of my I was going to say my diet, but it was regularly part.
They
of
weren't better than the mint
trip.
ones.
Oh no, there was the citrus ones. Was the ones back in high school? Citrus polos or Campinos.
I know when we
with Campinos.
We had some sugar-free polos the once when we had a tour of Granada Studios, and they're saying, "Oh, don't eat all of them because they'll have a laxative effect." Naturally, they did, didn't they? So that was a lesson learned.
Because they're replaced with the sweetener or something like that.
Must have been something like that. Yeah. So if you eat a whole pack of them, I mean, this you talk about like it was when Phantom Menace came out, because the only thing that I bought, because when you normally go on these, when you went on school trips, you come back with a rubber or a ruler that you never used. There was a shop selling actual proper things, and I bought little Qui-Gon Jinn from Phantom Menace, and it had only been out recently, so it must have been around about 99. So just for clarification, I don't think you'd have to shit yourself now if you ate sugar-free polos. It's probably better now. But back in the day, it was very, very lethal. Speaking
of shit, Hugo Lloris, after 6 minutes, played a massive hand in us going 1-0 in front. Raul's strike on the volley was beautiful, wasn't it? But absolutely calamitous defending from Tottenham Gully. Obviously, do you think that's sort of belonged at Sunday League level?
I couldn't tell you what he was thinking, to be honest. It the way I describe it is, it looked like the kind of thing an outfield player would do playing in goal. Just, the ball's gone somewhere near them and they just flap at it and get it away. Someone like trying to swat a fly, as if it's bothering them that much.
But it all started with the back pass from Doherty, and then he played it to Ben Davies, put him into
that
no
was the
man's
second
land.
goal.
Oh, second goal. Sorry, yeah.
That was second goal.
He was just shit. Hugo Lloris, considering he's won the World Cup, how shit he was yesterday was unbelievable.
But he has games like this all the time now. At least 4 or 5 games a season, he turns into. Well, who do you even? I mean, that guy who played for Comoros, the left back. I mean, the couple of saves he pulled off. You are right, Gully. I mean, that the second one, the first one from Neves, fine. He's seen it kind of relatively late. He's parried it pretty shitly anyway. But then the second one, God knows what that was. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life.
I was more annoyed with Dendoncker not catching it at all. You think it's a really good chance that, and he's just hit it into the ground. Lo and behold, it's all worked out very nicely. But yeah, maybe Raul needed a little bit of luck to get himself back into the groove from a goal scoring perspective, anyway.
Most definitely. You said at the start of the show that we've needed a performance from him. How did you rate his performance over the period yesterday, Gully?
I think he still showed signs of rustiness. There are a couple of passes in behind where he was off target, and situations where we could have really been in promising goal scoring positions. But the one thing that bothers me most with him at the moment is he turns into trouble quite a bit. Now, Tottenham in their back line are pretty terrible, but Christian Romero looks a good player to me, to be fair, and he's aggressive. So you're not going to get a chance to turn against him. But Raul kept trying to turn, which when he's on fire, when he's playing well, he seems to do quite nicely. But sometimes you just need to hold the ball up a bit, mate, and relieve the pressure. And he wasn't quite doing enough of that for me.
It's when he turns into it and then kind of throws his arms up and sulks. That's the problem for me. Because before he'd battle and try and win it back. He hasn't been doing that. And like an example, like the shot in the second half, if he was on form, he'd hit that first time. No question about it. And in the end, it ends up trying to lure a penalty in, and then Lloris actually does save it in the end. But I thought he dallied on that a bit too much. And you take his goal away, and yeah, it's a better performance, but it's not brilliant.
No, I wouldn't call it back to his best. No.
So let's go back to what I mentioned a few minutes ago. Matt Doherty plays back pass to Hugo Lloris. Hugo Lloris tries to do a through ball to Ben Davies towards his own corner flag. Just calamitous. just talk us through it again, Gully.
To talk us through it from a positive point of view, our own, it was a good press. We got them into a situation where they're moving the ball into places they don't necessarily want to move it into, and it was well executed. I think what I said after the game was that Tottenham looked like a team that had been scrambling for a few signings. Basically, they didn't get what they needed. Maybe they were looking for a centre half. I'm not sure. But they look like a team that aren't quite sure of themselves and are probably shit scared of their manager as well. Which I don't necessarily blame them for that. But they played like kind of trapped by that fear, and you got to take advantage of that. And we're not a pressing side in real terms. I don't think we're necessarily going gung ho at teams, but when we see the opportunity, we execute it well, and that's what led to winning the ball back. And I think the point from there onwards was we made good decisions when we did win it back, and that ultimately led to the goal being scored.
We had quite a few chances before we got the second, didn't we? But like I said, quite a lot of pressure in their own box, and Pardon should have maybe scored before Dendoncker actually put it away. I mean, Hugo Lloris's face there says it all, really. They were just petrified of us yesterday.
Oh dear. You can't, so you can't blame him, but even that, he was kind of hesitant goalkeeping when it came back to him. He wasn't really forceful, was he? I know it's been a bit harsh, but even so, I mean that I can't just look at that face now. It's putting me off. But we didn't mention the ball that Doherty passed back in the first place came through Kundal playing a through ball down the line to Aït-Nouri. And to have the confidence to do that kind of thing that early in his debut as well. And he said, we're not a pressing side, but we do press when we need to and when we see the opportunity to do so. And as soon as he cocked up, they were on him, which we've never seen ever.
What I will say kind of about the scoring of the goal, though, is that we earned our luck a little bit on it, because if you think about Pudence's shot, it got blocked by Sanchez. It then hit his own man running towards his own goal, came off the post, and then landed right at Dendonker's feet. And to a certain extent, you need something like that to go for you. I still think the Arsenal goal in the week, there's a lot of luck involved in the ball. You know, Lacazette flicking the ball towards goal, you know, beating Sarr to it, and it just landing at Gabriel. You know, little things like that. You just need him to run for you sometimes, and that happened against Tottenham. So thankful.
It was great to see Dendoncker actually back on the score sheet yesterday, because he has been thrust into the number one scapegoat this season, hasn't he? I mean, yesterday, frustratingly, he's still one of our most furthest players forward when we get into attacking areas. And that's not his game, is it? But when he gets on the sheet, people are saying, "Oh, that's not 8 out of 10 performance there by the lad." But that's not his game. Is it to be getting goals every now and then?
Yeah, he's been. When they try and turn him into Dave Edwards Mark II, it never works.
You keep saying Dave Edwards like that's an aspirational thing.
It is. It is good.
No,
Championship Dave Edwards is an excellent thing.
I'm telling you now, people need to go and have a look at Dave Edwards' goal scoring record back when he was at Wolves in a successful team. It weren't that great, I'm telling you.
Championship Dave Edwards is something to aspire to.
In a terrible football team. In a terrible football team.
Doesn't matter. That corner of uncertainty, the skulls roll as we kind of
Jesus,
over and over again. You're going to come on here on Valentine's night and talk about Dave Edwards, we'll do it. But no, I think it's not his game. And when he's left alone to do his actual things that he's good at, he's a decent player. There's a decent player in there, but he's kind of been. When he tries to do things he can't do, that's where the problems start, and he's done that way too much this season. And that might not be down to him, but again, you can only go on what you see.
Isn't the source? I mean, we all know social media is toxic, but the negativity that Dendoncker gets is massively unwarranted, isn't it? You've got to look at the owners for not replacing his role within that team.
I find it mad though. Like, people are calling him out as the worst player in the Premier League.
It's disgusting, the negativity that lad has. He's been a great servant for this club, and because he's not a goal-scoring midfielder and he's being asked to be a goal-scoring midfielder, it's a disgrace.
What I will say is that, look, when we play with the 2 in there and we play with the 3 in there, you can see which role suits him far better. Now, clearly, at the weekend on Sunday, he played in his more preferred role. He's able to get about, and look, you know, he did well to get on the end of one and score, but he also broke up play pretty well. He tracked his runners, all the basic shit that you would notice about a player not doing, and then you'd moan about that. You know, he does relatively well. He's never going to be a shining example of a Premier League midfielder. He's just not. But we shouldn't be expecting things from him that he's never done. You know, when he was a good player for us, people will tell you, second half of that first season, when he came into the team, he had a real big impact when we changed our shape. He came in as a third midfielder and he helped us go on a run of form. And people will tell you that, you know, that was Dendoncker, that was a really good player then. He's no different to that in my eyes. He's exactly the same player he was, but all of a sudden, because apparently we should be expecting more from him, you know, all of a sudden he should be silky or dribbling round or being creative and sliding through balls in and getting on the end of every cross that comes into the box. Yeah. Now he's not good enough. I don't buy it.
He's the same player in a 3, like you just said, but I think it was when we moved to a 2 in midfield, and it was that whole 6 months where it was Dendoncker +1. He was great then. He was great. But then we haven't had that for the last 18 months when he's played in a 2. I don't know why or what the difference is, but it just doesn't seem the same when he's in a 2. And it's no coincidence that we had a 3 at Brentford, played really well. And he was like you said a few weeks ago when he was turning up near the corner flag, running past the wing backs, creating space. Again, he was doing it yesterday in a 3. So if we leave him to being in a 3, no problem whatsoever, because it clearly works for him. And that's a question moving forward. Who, if Martinez is going to be out for a while, that we don't know at this point, do you play Neves and Kundal together in a 2? It'll be a big ask.
Bruno did mention yesterday that Martinez is more than likely to be available for Leicester. Did I hear that right?
I don't recall the conversation, to be honest, but
I'm sure that's what I read. That it's not a serious injury. That he's hoping to have him back for Leicester. But let's talk about the future Ballon d'Or winner, Luke Kundal. We said earlier that it was brave to start him, but in hindsight now, there was no bravery needed, was there?
It's like he's played the whole season. It was quite ridiculous how it was a bit like Totti when he just slotted in like it's no big deal. It was exactly the same. And I think the thing for the audio listeners there, 24 passes completed, forward passes 7. But there were people on Twitter saying, "Oh yeah, but he did the simple thing and he only passed sideways and backwards." Well, no, clearly he didn't, did he?
You go down one more there, Stu. Final third passes completed 6 out of 24.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier about how the through ball for the second goal came about from him. And for a player making his debut in a place like that, against a team like that, it was incredible. You'd never in a million years think he was 19 years old making his debut.
I mean, I like what I saw. He's fine. He's clearly being brought up in the Wolves way. He's basically, his senior kind of experience, whether it be with the academy, under 23s, training with the first team, he's going to be ingrained in him, how we play football. So I think what you saw from him yesterday was that he's totally at ease with the system and he understands exactly what's being asked of him. That is the kind of environment you want to bring a young player into because it makes their life so much easier. You don't want to bring him into a mess of a football team. I remember like Conor Ronan coming into the team under like Paul Lambert, and that's not the kind of environment that's going to allow a player to flourish at all. Gibbs White coming into a shit team in the second half of last season. And to be fair, he played okay, but at times you're just not 100% sure about what runs you should be making, that kind of thing. So I think he was in a safe spot because he was in part of the midfield 3, and clearly we're a more well-tuned team than, say, Tottenham. And I do think he was a bit safe with what he did, which is fine, to be expected. It's his debut. He's going to be nervous, but he did exactly what was asked of him. And the key bit for me was when Tottenham were trying to play the ball forward, those couple of interceptions that he made, the kind of balls he picked up in areas where we could then get the ball moving forward again and get into the opposition final third. That's where I think he showed some good game intelligence and good tactical kind of nous.
It reminded me a bit of when Foden started playing instead of David Silva, because he trained with him for ages and ages, and there were like glimpses of the similar kind of player. It was a bit like that with Martinez with him at times. Obviously, nowhere near the same level, but like you were saying about being ingrained in the Wolves way, you could see the influences there from.
You can see him almost, like you say, not the same level, but in terms of their stature, their qualities, they look like that. Like it looks like Kundal's going to go that way in terms of does a little bit of everything. He gets about, but he has a bit of quality on the ball as well. So promising for sure.
What my thoughts were on Kundal was he wasn't outstanding. He was just massively assured in everything that he did. He didn't look sort of overawed by the situation, considering I think he put on his Instagram that he'd never had a feeling like that in his life playing in that game yesterday. So you knew how important he was, but he didn't look overawed. There was never really a moment during the game that I thought our midfield with him were being out-battled or the physicality was too much for him. looking towards Leicester, obviously we'll do a bit more of a preview show later on in the week. If Moutinho is fit, does he come back in for either of you, Gully?
I think yeah. You look at the way you want to play, really. Yeah, Bruno made a conscious decision to go with the three this time around because they've looked at Spurs and the way that they're playing it, and it clearly was the right system to go with. Leicester, I think, are a team you really want to, put your foot on their throat a little bit at the moment. They're a bit vulnerable, so I'd prefer to go with an extra forward option. And I think
King Sacrifice on our Twitter did ask: is a permanent formation switch from 3-4-3 on the cards after yesterday?
Well, I thought you automatically think playing a 5-man midfield is going to be more negative, but the amount of chances that we had and the amount of shots that we were getting away,
I think it was the amount of bodies that we had in the box yesterday, which was noticeable for me.
Yeah, and they highlighted that on Match Today too. Then we had 7 players in the opposition half at times, and it's not necessary. I mean, it might be better away from home against teams like that. Tottenham are shit, but Leicester are no great shape. I watched them yesterday as well, and they were again very suspect at times. And like I said, you want to stamp on the necks, but you could do that in a 5-man midfield. If we're gonna open teams up and create as much space as we did against Spurs, then I wouldn't say no to it again. I mean, it worked. It worked wonders against them. So we'll see. It's not. I wouldn't rule it out as being a bad thing if we started that game at 3-5-2. Let's just say that.
Agree with that, Gully?
Look, I'm not gonna say it's a bad thing. I just prefer to see it where it's a way of trying to dominate territory as much as anything. I know against Spurs, we did that as a consequence of probably them not being very good, us being able to win the ball back on as many occasions as you can recall, probably in the first half that we played this season. But that was probably more consequential because of them being pretty shit, I think, as much as us, playing, a good game. They were pretty terrible. I genuinely think that, and they allowed so much space for us to play into. I think, I don't know, it's an interesting one because the three in midfield helped us win the ball back, and you felt like if we had an extra forward in there, we'd be able to take advantage of the attacking situations we had a little bit more as well. So it's a bit chicken and egg because you lose one without the other, and I just think Leicester are there to be taken advantage of, and you want an extra forward on the pitch.
I had a bit of a debate with some of my friends yesterday. I was trying not to be heavily Wolves biased, but Ruben Neves and Yuri Tielemans, who's the better midfielder out of those two?
They're different players. You can't really.
I think Tielemans is better in the final third, but I think Neves is so much more well-rounded, and the sort of money that Tielemans is being touted for in the summer, we've got to be looking for similar in my eyes.
I don't think there's a conversation there at the moment. I think it's quite simple. Ruben Neves is our most instrumental player. We are. Where are we in the league, guys? Just remind me. We're Leicester. It's quite simple. If he's their most important midfielder, he would be more influential on the way that they're playing at this point in time. I know they're not very good at the back, clearly, but I just think Ruben Neves is. You take him out of our team, you take the kind of the soul out of it. Really, it's just that he's just that important.
If Nuno hadn't been a complete moron and signed Tielemans when we had the chance, that would have been it. That would have
been a brilliant midfield.
That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? That would be lovely.
I mean, Tielemans was spraying passes similar to Neves yesterday. I think he sprayed one to Harvey Barnes, which he assisted for the second goal. But it's like what I said, the amount of money that Tielemans is being touted for in the summer, if someone is going to sort of try and poach Neves, we've got to be looking for similar. There's just no doubt in it.
You're looking at 80 million plus, ain't you? Easily.
I think he's only 1 year left on his contract as well, I think, isn't there? How can they even command a fee like that? Really?
Well, Mr. Romano has said that he ain't signing a new deal either. So
exactly.
They're in a Traore situation like we were in the summer. So
I just hope they don't sack Brendan this week because we could do with him being in charge.
I mean, let's get that top 4 place and we'll get Tielemans and Neves in the summer, eh? Let's get back to yesterday's game. Man of the match, guys. Rich did his Forza Football player ratings there. Any sort of ratings there that stand out for you? Got Luke Kundal 8, Ruben Neves 8.5. I'll come to you first, Gully. Raul Jimenez 8 out of 10. What would you have given him?
No, I think you give him a 7 for finishing, his chance off. But I still think he's in. I don't think if you ask Raul Jimenez if he was happy with the way he played yesterday, I think he'd probably tell you himself he still wasn't quite at it. It was a good finish, chance that was given to him, a bit of a gift, but still more to come from him, 100%.
Did Kilman stand out in the back three for you, Stu?
I thought he was man of the match by an absolute mile. But I think he was even in debate. I think Rich has been quite diplomatic there, putting so many people as an 8.5 because I thought Super Kilman was just he was. I mean that one where he won the ball back and then dribbled past about 3 blokes before getting fouled on the halfway line. You think, well, this is not normal, is it? It's not normal behaviour, especially for a centre half playing on the wrong side of his natural area, and then especially for Wolves as well. I thought he was immense yesterday. I think it's probably one of the better games that he's had. And again, he pulled off a wonder tackle in the box, which the confidence is just to do that. It's superb.
I love the way he just kind of picks on a team's most dangerous attacker. You probably say, between Son and Harry Kane, it's a bit of a toss-up. And he just picks on him, sticks him in his pocket and says, try and fight your way out of it. Because, he didn't have a sniff, really.
I made my opinion clear after the Arsenal game that I thought it was Kilman's worst game of the season against Arsenal. But I thought his bravery yesterday, bringing the ball out of defence, like I said, with that one interception, I think when Kane was through, he easily was our best defender yesterday. You mentioned just about Rich being quite complimentary to a lot of the team. 7.5 for 8 Nori.
I don't think Nori did anything wrong yesterday. I thought he was 7. It's a bit high. I think you're talking about 6.5, really. Same as Raul. And I don't think Pedence had that brilliant a game either, even though he got himself into a few decent chances and put himself out about a bit. We're only giving him an 8. I thought Semedo 8.5. It's a bit high. I think he's done this straight after the game, when he's all hyped up. All a bit high for me, but yeah, Kilman and Neves would have been my 2.
I think the bottom line is we don't have to be that good to beat Spurs these days, do we?
I don't think anyone needs to be that good to beat Spurs.
Yeah.
But I think he was just
Jimenez loves scoring against Spurs, doesn't he? The goal at Wembley, the 2 previous away fixtures, he loves playing against Tottenham, doesn't he?
I love how last year's just been ignored completely. It doesn't count.
Didn't happen behind closed doors.
Well, Raul didn't play, so it's a fait accompli. But long may it continue.
So, who was your man of the match, Gully?
Yeah, I'd probably say. To be fair, I think Saar was pretty good, even though he had a couple of dodgy moments. Like he's just that keeper that I think strikers are in a position now where they think, you know what, we know this bloke is difficult to beat. There was a situation where Kane got in behind. He was kind of down the left channel, and if you watch Saar's positioning, he looks confident as he approaches situations like that, as if he knows that the striker's going to be thinking about this really hard. Like clearly he's a goalkeeper in form, and it's almost as if I think you can see a goalkeeper working out where he thinks the striker's going to put the ball, whereas Saar's just like, look, I'm going to stand up big and I'm going to stay tall. It's your job to beat me. I'm not going to second guess you. And his positioning is really, really good as well. I enjoyed the comedy moment of him pretending that he was going to catch the ball, letting it bounce off his chest as if he had time to just kind of let it sit in the box and then pick it up later. But he's a character as well, isn't he? I suppose. Yeah.
I think that's the kind of thing that I was a little bit trepidatious about in the summer, because he'll do some ridiculous things like 2 or 3 times in the course of the season where, like, he was clearly thinking of the next thing to do rather than just catch the ball in that point where you think, oh, I mean, it looked horrendous, the conditions. So to be trying to chest it down in his own box with so many people around him, and it then just slip off his chest, and then it could have gone badly wrong. But yeah, he's. I think when he had a bird of prey on his arm in the winter break on holiday, I think that just sums him up.
I mean, I don't really like marketing our players out, but if a bigger team, because we're pretty much already a Champions League team on the way now, a bigger team comes in for him in the summer, what sort of money do you look for from Jose Sa?
He's tied down for a few years now, isn't he? So, name your price kind of thing. It's what are you willing to pay? I think is what you'd ask of a club. You wouldn't necessarily sit there and give them a number. I think you'd say, look, if you're that desperate, then you'd chuck 35, 40 million at us.
Yeah, and even that's is he worth that to us? No, he's worth more than that.
At the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to the whole thing of how much Kepa cost. And I know that was because he was younger and everything. But you look at what a shambles he started out as, and he's kind of better now, and they've got two decent keepers now. But still, 72 million quid for a keeper like that, you're talking at least 50 for Jose Sa in the form he's in. He's the best keeper in Europe at the minute. Stock's as high as it's ever going to be.
In a team where he has to actually make saves, now and then, rather than one of these teams that dominate the ball entirely. Yeah.
We've conceded less than Liverpool in the Premier League this season. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So basically, Kilman's better than Van Dijk. Is that what we're saying?
Oh yeah, but that was obvious anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, Cody's better than Matip. Trent Alexander's all right, but we'd prefer Semedo anyway, wouldn't we?
On a serious note, again, Cody is just so assured right now. He never looks flustered like he did at certain points. He's just becoming very, very classy at the back.
No, he's kind of turned Luke Cunliffe into his own little project. I'm picking him up.
We'll have a quick little break, and then we'll talk about whether we're going to finish 4th or 6th.
Hi, it's Richard from Wolves Fancast here. Just interrupting today's show before we get back to some questionable opinions and opinionated questions. Talk to you a little bit about our sponsors, Pixel Yeti Media. They are a design agency that put you and your business first, from web design, logo and branding design, and marketing. If you have any marketing needs, get in touch with them to find out how they can help you get it right. They are over at pixelyetimedia.com. Now let's get back to a show where we can give you some really forced wordplay, niche cultural references, and maybe even a bit of football talk.
Welcome back to the Wolves Fancast, a part of the 90min.com network. Big win yesterday, which took us above Spurs. They've got a game in hand on us, but guys, 4 points off West Ham with 2 games in hand. Could Wolves be playing in the Champions League and Adama be playing in Europa next season?
Could is the word. I don't think so. I don't, even in our maddest dreams, I don't think so. Just because
I know we're the most bipolar fan base in the world, but is 4th achievable?
Again, you can't just say, I guess, is it achievable, because everything's going to rest on how everybody else performs. You can't, we're not in control of our, how Arsenal get on, apart from the one game we have against them in a couple of weeks' time. There's literally only 3 points to play for against the teams around us. So I think what you've got to ask the question of is, are we going to gain enough points to finish in those positions? And you're talking, generally speaking, I don't know, 65 to 70 maybe is going to take you there. And that's a serious run of form, but we're in good nick now, aren't we?
What's the sort of minimum tally of points in those next 3 games, which would really give you a semi at it being achievable?
Give us a semi? I think I've already got one, to be fair.
If Wolves was to get 5 points out of those next 3 games, is the passport definitely getting renewed if it isn't already?
I don't think that'll be enough for top 4. I think you're looking at 7, really, and that's a push. I think there's a bit of a difference between Champions League form and top 6. I think top 6 is now is achievable now, barring any ridiculous fuck-ups or injuries to key players. I just think it's a step too far, and that's not a bad thing to say. That because we can't get in the Champions League because they're going, look where we came from. But it'd be, top half would be amazing. The season we've had with the starting point that we had with the squad and everything else, and changing systems and all that kind of gubbins. I just can't see top four. As much as we'd all dream it and it'll be ridiculous and fun, I think it's a bit much, personally.
But in hindsight, you can see why Arsenal celebrated like they won the league the other night with that league table, can't you? Because that was a massive win for them.
Like, it kept them above us. Otherwise, it would have only been on goal difference, wouldn't it? 0-0 would have been tight. But it's going to be an interesting end of the season. I think from here, I think we should realistically be looking at 60 points minimum to finish the season on, and that's the best we've had since we came back up by some distance. And when you think about, I'll probably go back and have a look at where that would have landed us over the last few years, but that's phenomenal. Given all the feelings around the club at the start of the season, the fact we got a new manager, we're introducing, academy players into the team, turning Max Kilman, former non-league footballer, into one of the best centre-halves in the country. So many things, lack of transfer activity. You could just point at all sorts of excuses why we shouldn't be up there. But, Bruno Lage, what a man, what a bloke.
Potential coach of the year, like Rich mentioned the other week, if we could finish in those Europa places.
Well, there's no, you can't even question it, can you? Other than the usual, let's give it to Pep because he won the league. All that kind of bollocks.
I couldn't care less if he got it or not. It wouldn't bother me. We know, he'd be the people's champ, as they say. But yeah.
The games, you look at them three, Leicester, Arsenal away, West Ham away. I'm more confident with them three than Palace at home, just because that's how we are. And
Leicester and West Ham are two teams that are not playing well at the moment.
Exactly. And
Arsenal's got a bit of bite to it now, hasn't it? That return fixture.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting game, but I expect us to play a bit better. Having played them so recently, having probably a better understanding of how they're going to turn up and set themselves up. And I just think, like, people are always talking about making signings to kind of raise the level, and improve and upgrade and stuff like that. But if you look at it from perspective of that, would probably raise the ceiling of our performance. But I think the biggest thing that Bruno has done is raised the floor, the base level. When we're shit, we're definitely not that bad. There were times when Nuno's team, while they could hit the heights that this Bruno's team probably can, they play some thrilling stuff. They were incredible against some of the bigger teams in the league. I think when they were bad, they were really, really off it. But I really don't think this Bruno side is anywhere near as bad as what if we aren't quite clicking, if we aren't quite at the races, they just still seem like they're going to be in a game and they might just scrape a result. Nuno's team had to play well to win, if you see what I mean. So in any of those games, I think they're 3 points up for grabs. And if we came out with 12 points, how it's it sounds ridiculous, but when you look at those games one by one, do you think Wolves can win them? Of course we can. Yeah.
If we came out with 12 points, you're looking at like snow angels in the canal and all that kind of gubbing. It'll be more than dreamland. If we came out of that with 12 points, you'd be looking at we'd be at least fifth at the end of them 4 games.
I think you get 9 points out those next 4 games. I think the momentum seals us at least to Europa place come the end of the season.
With the injuries we have coming back, with the players that can then
you want us to be in the running for the Europa places as a minimum. But when Neto comes back, if we can be in the running, if he's at least 80%, you've got to risk him.
Hwang, has got plenty to contribute rest of the season. There's going to be competition for places. There's going to be a drive. Players want to get into the team. Players going to be pushing each other. And if you're not playing well, then your position is going to be at risk. So, that's probably what Bruno's really, really gunning for now. That they're throwing the gauntlet down to all the players in the team. Say, look, you're going to have to be a good player to be in this Wolves team because the rest of the boys are chomping at the bit.
Sunday, 4:30. Is that a Sky Sports Super Sunday game, that?
Yep.
It is.
Leicester, obviously, they beat West Ham 2-1 at home yesterday. West Ham, we're only, as I said, 4 points behind them with 2 games in hand. I think their Europa League campaign restarts soon. So, out of those teams there, who's the likeliest not to finish in the European places?
Well, at the minute, it'll be Man United. How shit they are.
Yeah.
I mean, they would. I kind of said it kind of flippantly yesterday on Twitter that if you put them side by side and you pick one central defender for England, would you pick Harry Maguire in the absolute fucking shambles that he is at the minute, or Max Kilman? It's a no-brainer. And I know he's not solely responsible for the mess that they're in there, but he doesn't breed confidence whatsoever. And they should have lost that game.
Yeah.
And they've got no identity. You don't know what they're doing from game to game. They're all over the place. At least, and West Ham have got the distraction. So I'm kind of talking myself into believing this now that we could be in a shootout with Arsenal.
Of course, the more we know, but we know what's going to hold us back, and it's goal scoring. Bottom line. But even when you look at from the turn of the year, that's kind of addressing itself a little bit. When you think about the fact that we scored 3 against Southampton, we got 2 at Brentford, we got 2 against Spurs. Yep. Nobody can say we're struggling to score goals at this current moment in time. Clearly, that was a problem for the first half of the season, but there's still, green shoots to kind of look at promisingly with players to return again. Look at flipping hell, boys. We're getting Europe. We're getting Champions League. It's happening.
I was about to actually sing the Champions League anthem then, but my voice is still a bit rough from my weekend's activities. Let's get a bit silly for a moment. Earlier on in the week, Ruben Neves and John Ruddy went and had a bit of a game of billiards with former snooker champion Ken Doherty at the World Championships. Did you see any of that video, guys?
I watched it.
Yeah, I was the same thing. I thought, do they have snooker in Portugal? Because it's not something you associate with the Portuguese culture, is it snooker? And he looked a bit terrified of the size of the table to start with.
Well, he kept talking about a pool, didn't he? That he plays pool, basically.
For a snooker world champion like Ken Doherty, it's got to rub you up the wrong way when someone compares your game to pool.
I mean, anybody
the way he was
who's played
holding the cue was proper pool, wasn't it?
Yeah, anybody who's played on a snooker table and fancies himself as a pool player, that's a stretch. It's a stretch.
I thought Ken Doherty had quite a maniac type laugh as well.
I think he was more terrified of John Ruddy than anything else.
John Ruddy landed the double into the middle pocket, which was quite impressive for the big guy.
He
didn't mean it though, did he?
You feel like a snooker table's a nice accessory for a footballer to have in their home, though, don't you? Like, it's one of those things you expect. Probably British players, to just have a little, bit of fun when they want to wind down.
It's great to see them enjoying themselves on a weeknight. Quickly look back at the league table a second. Stu, that gap's starting to get a little bit bigger, isn't it?
I'm not gonna mind it at all.
10 points, 15 games to go.
I know Harry, good old HRH got at him again at the weekend.
It's
like his picture of him pointing to the league table. Yeah,
the bites keep coming for him.
I feel like they're getting quite a few compliments. Obviously they've signed players like Coutinho and whatnot, and it's like they're really not doing that well though. Still,
I said it at the start of the season, and nothing's changed with Villa. It's all right having these attacking players, Coutinho, Buendia, Leon Bailey, but if you've got 6 players behind them who are absolute dog shit, they'll always get outscored.
They've got Tyrone Mings. That says it all.
I mean, if any of us watch a Leeds game, that was just microcosm of Villa, the way they are. Yeah, fine. They've got players with a bit of quality in the final third, but they made Dan James look like a serious player. And I ain't being funny. He's playing up front, out of position, and he looked like he was going to get a hat. He won a header against Tyrone Mings. Who's letting that happen?
Well, that's not even a surprise anymore, is it? It's I don't know why.
Well, now we know Mings is in the England squad for the Bants. Him and Cody, little comedy double act in the bar at the end of the night, probably.
It's that video of Roy Keane. I think was he talking about Jordan Henderson at the Euros? Talking about what does he actually do? Does he do magic tricks? What is Tyrone Mings in the England squad for? Because it must just be because Cody likes him.
Yeah, can I bring a friend? He says to Gareth, "Can I bring a mate? Come on, Gaza."
It's great to see that we're going to have quite a few players at the World Cup in Qatar in 2022. Hopefully, Max Kilman can oust Tyrone Mings and we can have 2 in the England squad. Well, how about that, lads?
And one that actually plays.
Yeah. I mean, you think of it, them 2 and Stones, it's a pretty formidable back 3, you know. Even joking aside, the form that they're in, you can't really say you put Ben White and Webster maybe, but they're not as good as Cody and Kilman at this moment in time. They're just not.
The thing is, you go like, let me sort of cast my mind back. Steve Bruce and Gary Pallister never got a run in the England team, did they? Considering they were Premier League champions every other season.
No, they didn't. But you can just see Kilman has all the attributes. You know, whether it be is he physically going to handle it? Yeah, well, clearly he's doing it at the top level. You know, you've just got to think the Premier League is probably the highest standard of football anywhere in the world. You know, even the Champions League doesn't offer that necessarily at group stage and things like that. You know, you do get some minnows in there, so there's no reason to then not expect him to handle the step up, especially with his quality on the ball as well.
Yeah,
guys, we're finishing top 4. I'm saying it right now. We're finishing top 4. Third might just be out of reach, but we're finishing top 4.
I ain't gonna get any sleep tonight now. I just think you guys have got me going.
You've already got a semi, so we'll leave it on that note. Gully, are you doing a GTA Fancast this week?
I am going to be doing a GTA Fancast. I'm going to be having a look at a few things from the Spurs game, particularly why it worked with the 3 in the middle. I think is the one thing, and how we go horses for courses, and I'm going to do a little bit on Max Kilman just because I love the bloke.
Stu, cage fighting this week?
I presume so. Yeah, we will be doing a top 5 game to film adaptations in the next few weeks.
I should have made that clear to the people who didn't know that you've got a different podcast called Cage Fighting. That you're not actually cage fighting this week.
No, I'm not doing any MMA. Just I know I'm built like it now, but not so much.
That'll be a good watch show, Stu. Can I be honest?
Stu versus
I'd pay good money for that. I'll pay good money for that.
There's plenty of people who'd want to volunteer to kick me apart. So,
but they've got to get through me first, Stu. And on that note, we'll see you for the preview show later on in the week.
It would be a war